This is the Dental Up Podcast, your daily source for insights from dentists and leaders in the industry. Brought to you by Keating Dental Lab, a full-service, award-winning dental lab that is here to add value to your dental practice. With high-quality restorations, friendly, reliable service, the best products and prices, come experience the Keating difference. Visit KeatingDentalLab.com for details.
Good morning, and welcome back to the Dental Up Podcast. I'm Bob Brandon, your host and the general manager here at Keating Dental Lab. Happy Labor Day, everyone. And if you labor every day, then I hope you enjoyed your day off and your boss was good to you. Our boss was great. He bought everyone lunch here at the lab last Friday, so thank you, Sean. And today is an especially important day for Sean and Shannon. 20 years ago today, they created Keating Dental Arts. That's right. 20 years ago, people thought we sold art. Not many people read our tagline of creating smiles every day to figure out what we really did. Honestly, it confused people. We had dentists coming up to our booth at our very first big dental show, the 2005 Yankee Dental Meeting at the Heinz Convention Center in downtown Boston, asking what type of art we had for their office walls and operatories. And it was at that show where we were introduced to a world-class dentist who would later become a great friend to all of us here at the lab. And today's guest, I met at that first show. Funny how a few beers in a hotel bar and a few lobsters at Whiskey's on Boylston Street can turn into a 17-year relationship and journey to delivering better dentistry. And that's why we're still friends today, because we both have that same goal. So let's meet the CEO of Vista Apex Dental Materials, Mr. Scott Lamerand. Good afternoon and welcome back to the Dental Up Podcast. My guest today is an old friend, and I'll be honest with you, we've had some really good times at some of these trade shows over the last 20 years. But I'm pleased to welcome Scott Lamerand, the CEO of Vista Apex, and Scott's going to walk us through his new line of products, which are tremendously important and very useful for the delivery of dental restorations, all dental restorations. So Scott, welcome.
Thank you, Bob. I appreciate the invite and happy to be here to talk over these things with you.
Awesome. Well, again, like I said, you've been one of our friends of the lab and me personally for a number of years, and it's not just because we think alike, but I think your products are top of the line. They're really in the top 1%, of the country, and I know that you guys sell direct, so maybe a lot of our customers, a lot of our Keating customers don't know really what you sell and how they're developed. So if you could walk us through some of your newer products like ZRC and ZRP and why they're so useful, that would be awesome.
Oh, that'd be great. Bob, it's really funny you mentioned the last 20 years, and when we look at what's happened in the industry and the materials that are being used, they've really evolved from where people were using gold and other PFMs, those types of restorations. And now it's really, when you look at the rise of zirconia, it created a lot more, how would you say, I don't want to say utility necessarily, but certainly a lot of utility. And
sure.
The aesthetic material is so strong that it really is producing incredible restorations and pretty easy to use. And certainly not originally, if you look at where it came from.
Absolutely.
One of the fastest growing materials in the industry. And we start to watch it go. And Keating, you guys have done an incredible job taking zirconia and now utilizing different technologies to get the high translucency and the aesthetic versions to bring it forward into the anterior portion of the mouth, which is awesome. And what we see then from our role is how do you bond these in place? Because you might not have, you don't have full retention and coverage to just rely on mechanicals. You need some bonding that goes with it. And zirconia is one of those materials that's really difficult to bond to. It chemically, for one, but then just the material itself, it doesn't etch per se. You can micro etch it somewhat, but it's so gosh darn hard that it creates these challenges. The other piece is it has affinity for things that are common in the oral environment. It pulls phosphates, which are naturally going to be contaminants that somebody runs into and they do a try-in that have to be removed, or you just can't bond to it at all. It makes bonding a difficult material, bonding impossible to have those things happen.
Yep. So, and that was a common problem before we introduced some of our our biggest zirconia customers to your products and, removing the contamination the right way. And we get these crowns returned to us on a weekly basis. Can you sandblast the old cement layer out and make it nice and pristine for us? And that's it's not a red flag, but it's just, hey, that's life. And the zirconia is very difficult to achieve, a chemical bond to. And every single one of our customers that we've turned on to your products has had immediate and lasting success. And, I thank you for making their life and their job easier. But for those dentists out there that are listening and have not had the great fortune of discovering your products, if you could, just walk us through the sequence of events that needs to happen, I think that'd be very beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's the piece too, that both Keating and ourselves look at is really that ultimate success of the doctor and the patient. What would be more frustrating than you have this great crown, 2 days later, it's no longer in the patient, they're trying to have to replace it. So certainly dedicated to doing those things. What we really saw is it really becomes a 2-3 step process in the delivery. And first of all, as soon as the restoration, the doctor gets it, they unbox it, they look at it, they're going to go try it in. As soon as that restoration gets tried in, the surface is going to be contaminated. And it's going to be contaminated with phosphate-containing things. So what we've designed is a cleanser material that more or less is simply applied to the surface of the restoration.
The intaglio. Mm-hmm.
That's it. And you just apply it, wait 10 seconds, and rinse it off. The technology we use is basically a chelating agent that goes onto the surface and it extracts. It has an affinity, a higher affinity for those contaminants than what the restoration has. So it basically extracts those into its own solution, then you rinse it away. And what we did is we said, well, how are we going to actually prove this out? We can certainly do it in shear bond, but how are we going to prove there's a clean surface? So we actually went to X-ray spectrophotometry, which is basically a quantitative analysis device that looks at the surface of anything. So we looked at zirconia surfaces that were contaminated with saliva, essentially phosphates, and then not. We're basically looking at before and after photos and more than a photo, quite frankly. But you look at something that's absolutely purely clean. There's no residue left at all. There's no contaminants. When you look at the final results, when we take a look at the current market leader and we look at what that does, and everybody's used the pink material before the shape before you use and do all those steps. I always find material, but that's leaving about 80% of the contamination still there.
Still on it. Wow.
Yeah. So we start to look, So we look at it, it's like, oh, that's still there. That's going to just impede your ability to bond. And so when you're going into the less retentive preps, it becomes critical to use this cleanser to clean that surface off. So you have a pristine surface for bonding. Without that, you're really bonding to a contaminated surface. Imagine what that looks like. It's basically something that's going to prevent anything from sticking to it. It's like making a surface Teflon coated.
Sure.
And bonding to it's tough to do.
And the eluting agent then remains on the prep and not on the intaglio of the crown when it comes off.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And that's where everybody looks for is as far as, okay, where did it fail? Well, let's not fail at the surfaces of materials that are completely consistent. Tooth is so much different as a biological sample of what have you. You're bonding to a sponge in a lot of cases, and your adhesive is going to dictate that. But that's certainly the restoration itself, with the materials we currently have and we can afford to the users, the cleanser and then the primer really act together to give you a very, very strong bond and give you a high potential for success. Like I said, the cleanser, you're just applying it to the surface and rinse it off. It's almost like a gel etch. Not a lot of steps to it. Apply it, rinse it. Once you do that, dry the restoration thoroughly. You coat on. We recommend 2 coats of the primer. Why? In case you miss a spot.
Sure.
In the first coat.
Absolutely.
Just covering the surface, dry it thoroughly. There's no light activation step with the primer, and you're ready to go. So the ZRC is the zirconia cleanser, and this primer, which is ZRP, the zirconia primer. The essence of the primer, we actually made it a little bit different. We incorporated 2 universal type adhesive pieces, 2 monomers to bond. One of those MDP that everybody else has, and the other one's a proprietary piece that we added. Allows us to generate really bond strengths to zirconia really at the 40 megapascals range. There it is. There it is. Thank you.
And it's fantastic. So you finish your piece, and then I'm gonna tell everybody how we use your products here in the laboratory.
Sure. Once you're done with it, you dry it again. You're at that point, you're ready for delivery, which with whatever you're going to go to. But again, we see bond strengths in that type of protocol exceeding 40 megapascals. Yeah. And when you start to look at that, it's like, well, wait a minute, 40 megapascals. I just saw an advertisement from GC. They're touting their 20 megapascals as an accomplishment to zirconia. And that is good, or was.
I guess it's better than zero, but
that's exactly right.
I'll take 40 any day.
So again, that's the essence of those pieces, and that's really what can drive the performance.
Cool. Well, so in our lab, we had a problem, and we're all problem solvers, and thank God there's brilliant chemists like you out there to help guide us down the right solution to our problems. And our problem was, zirconia-based restoration, screw retain restorations on an implant abutment. Tremendously popular. It's probably the number one method dentists restore posterior single unit implants in the United States today. And, it's a very predictable restoration if you have the correct luting protocol and luting method. Now, we ran into trouble. Quite honestly, we had some restorations that didn't stick to the titanium abutments, and it was, zirconia and titanium, and gosh, they're two incredibly tough, durable materials. How do you really put it together? And thankfully, I think I actually just made a phone call to you one day, and you walked me through the steps, and we have had zero, again, since we've used your protocol 3 years ago, we've had zero restorations returned to us that, the zirconia crown is off of the titanium abutment. And I thank you for that, because it solves our problem wholeheartedly. And we use this recipe. We use the ZRP. Where'd it go? We use the ZRP. We use Superb. And then as the luting agent, we use Injectafill. And that recipe and sequence has led to 100% success, not only for us, but for our customers. And I think the key was actually changing from an MDP compound, which was one ingredient, to your ZRP, which has your proprietary, primer in it as well. And this we're going to be offering to, Keating customers, I think for the month of October, if they prescribe a zirconia-based restoration from us. And I thank you for helping us out there.
That's great. That's always great to hear. And we're always ecstatic to hear that something worked out better and there's been an improvement made somewhere. And boy, is it great to hear when it works out to that success level.
Absolutely. And I know we have some CEREC doctors that use your materials as well. And they've been a loyal client base of yours for over 20 years. And, they do the same thing. They get their abutments and they mill their crown and they follow your luting protocol, with ZRP and Superb and, Injectafill, and 100% success. It's great.
Yeah, it's fun watching when there's success takes place, and truly a lot of things happen in the Serona days, the CEREC days, where the restoration comes out and people didn't know how to treat it. They didn't know how it had to be cleansed, and just the surfaces cleaned up from the milling unit itself, and it creates all sorts of challenges that I know you guys have worked through and worked hard to make sure that doesn't happen for your clients. And here's some solutions, and appreciate you guys also including the products within to the Keating customers, and certainly feel humbled by the fact that you'll do that for us, and the material's performing that well.
Well, again, it's you and your brain and your team of scientists and chemists there that are coming up with these fantastic products that lead to success, and anything that we can do to make the dentist job, easier and more predictable. We all want to prevent problems, whether it's in the mouth or in the lab or, wherever, but, we want to prevent the problems before they even happen. And your materials really allow clinicians, 100% success rate with, a predictable sequence. And, again, it's all about getting the name out there and getting the product in more people's hands. And we have, we have two tremendous opportunities here for customers to learn more about Vista Apex products, both in the months of October and November. And again, my thanks to you for arranging this. And we have two tremendous clinicians. We have Dr. Mike Miyazaki in October and Dr. John Kanca in November. So if you could just tell us a little bit about these two fine clinicians and how they came to be affiliated with Vista Apex.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dr. Mike Miyazaki, he's our chief dental officer here at Vista Apex. So we utilize him for a lot of advice in how we design products. He works with a lot of different companies and frankly has a lot of experience in a number of different areas. His reputation is incredible. And I know we've been talking about it a good bit this morning. The case that he's doing isn't a run of the mill single unit delivery type thing. This is a awesome complex case, and it really showcases his talents as a clinician and the breadth of what he does in his office, and really does a really nice job showing off what the Keating lab can do and what the materials that we offer, combine those two, can do for a patient. That really, as you said it, Bob, and I think you'd say exactly right, this is a life-changing case for a patient. And it's so cool to see that. So Dr. Mike, as he goes through his lecture, is going to cover everything from soup to nuts of implants, veneers, onlays, inlays. It's an incredible program.
Occlusion anesthetics as well. Yeah, he's got it all.
And he's a magician in what he does, and he has a gifted set of hands how he preps things and does those things. So I think it's going to be a tremendous course. And we were just talking about how we can get that out to as many people as possible, because this is going to be a special day.
Absolutely.
Special day at Keating Lab.
Absolutely. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we have the capability here to host about 45 clinicians live that want to watch him in person. But, I think we're going to do some things. We're not going to give it all away right now, but I think we're going to do some things where those that cannot attend live, will have the ability to still learn from this.
Yeah. And then, the other part too, and I know it goes without saying, this is going to be time well spent. And then obviously the amount of specials, the things that you're going to walk away with, not only with education, but the promotionals that we're going to do are things that we don't do anywhere else, that we only do at a live lecture event. So it's going to be something to attend, and it's going to be an awesome day.
Oh, absolutely. It's going to be rewarding, from an educational standpoint, but, also picking up, tips for successful deliveries using your products, and then, having access to the products, live right there and seeing how they're used, and, watching the videos and asking questions, right there is going to be fantastic. And then, boy, looking forward to November. We've got a big one here. We've got one of the founding members of the AACD and one of the former presidents, one of the really early former presidents of the AACD. And again, a good friend of all of us here at Keating, and one of, I would dare to say, maybe one of your mentors personally as well.
No question.
Yeah, mine too.
No question. Dr. John Kanca is, a well-known, world-renowned clinician, but on top of that, he's one of those few people that changed the industry. And way back when, truly in the early 90s, late 80s, he's leading the acid etching, wet bonding. He's allowing us to bond the teeth. Before he and Bisco, so to speak, got together with the whole concept, the highest bond strength you get to a tooth, less than 10 megapascals. Now with his Surpass system and Regen self-etch, frankly, he's taken that to 60 megapascals. It's an unheard of number with no sensitivity.
Yeah.
And so it's something that he's done and accomplished. And people always look back and say, wow, what he's done that over such a long period of time. Yeah, when it started, it wasn't friendly. It wasn't fun.
No.
You make those suggestions, certainly you get enough people shooting at you as walking with you.
Yeah.
So he really took that on and changed dentistry as we know it today, and continues to. And what he's going to talk about a lot about is bioactivity and why those concepts that people came out with really aren't getting to where it needs to be. They're not actually imparting the true benefits of the bioactive portion of a material to the tooth. They're losing it to the oral environment, and how his design within our Regen product line delivers that right up to the surface. So you can see teeth repairing. And actually, when you start to look at it, it's like before we used to think the best day of restoration had was the first day. It was delivered.
Sure.
Your adhesion's as high as it's going to be. And then over time, it just goes away. This is actually going to allow the tooth to interact with the adhesive material and form a more integrated, proactive surface that eliminates micro leakage, that makes the bond strength better and better as time goes on. So really a cool technology he's going to talk about. And he's going to also talk about the Keating high aesthetic crowns and inlays, onlays that he's been having success with. So not only is he going to cover the whole world of adhesion and where it came to and where it went to and where it is, along with that, where it's going to go to, but then he's going to talk about using that in practical terms and where he's done composites and where he currently uses indirect restorations and where he leverages the labs and the new higher technology materials to drive that forward. That's going to be another great day. And when he gives a lecture, both these guys, honestly, Dr. Mike and Dr. Kanca, two engaging and entertaining guys too. So not only are they giving you a lot of valuable information, but it's easy to listen to. It's great to interact with, and they're fun.
Absolutely.
It's going to be a fun.
Yep. Man, and I remember going back probably 10 to 12 years ago where we were making all those zirconia samples that you were bonding to and measuring the strengths. And I kept going, in my head, I was like, where is this going? You can't bond to zirconia. You just can't bond. It's just not possible. The material is just too difficult to work with because, we were putting ceramic on it and having some issues, sometimes and, all that. But man, here we are 10 years later and you can actually freaking bond to zirconia. It's so wonderful. And, I never should have doubted him or you, but man, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And here's the payoff, that's a bad word, but here's the final, the final iteration of the product, and it's ZRP, and you can actually bond and get 60 megapascals of bond strength to zirconia.
Yeah, well, we looked at where we came from and where we're going. It's a nice marriage, so to speak, between high strength materials and material advancements within restorations themselves, and then taking the chemistries to deliver those and put those together. And that's what you're really going to see in these two courses. And certainly where I think that we've really enjoyed the relationship with Keating Dental is you guys are moving those materials forward very, very quickly and taking the best new technology and employing that for your customers. And when we can be a part of the delivery process and helping that be successful, man, that's a great day and certainly something we really enjoy.
Absolutely. So we've got two wonderful lectures coming up and it's all about practicing better dentistry. And, the audience is going to pick up a ton of tips, and it's going to be a life-changing event for me. Anytime I get the opportunity to watch John live, it really is a treat. And I've seen Dr. Miyazaki lecture. It is also phenomenal. He's way up there, top 1%, just like John. And I'm excited. I'm excited to continue the partnership with Vista Apex. I know it's been a while, but you guys are not only great friends, great people, but have world-class products and materials. And Scott, I thank you so much for joining us today and getting the message out there.
Hey, thank you for having me. I look forward to these events. Can't wait to get back together.
Awesome. Okay. Take care and have a great weekend, and we'll talk again soon, Scott.
All right, you too. Thanks, Bob.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
That's it.
Thank you for listening to the Dental Up podcast, your daily source for insights from dentists and leaders in the industry. This episode is sponsored by Keating Dental Lab, here to add value to your dental practice. With high-quality restorations, friendly, reliable service, the best products and prices, come experience the Keating difference. Visit KeatingDentalLab.com for details.